Picture this, someone with a deep, booming movie trailer voice and someone with a super high-pitched voice say the exact same word. If you look at their raw audio waveforms, it's a bizarre paradox. In time, those waves look completely, totally different. So to a computer staring at that raw timeline, it's just a chaotic mess of totally different peaks and valleys. How on earth does an AI actually know they're saying the exact same word? Well, in today's explainer, we're going to track the step-by-step journey of a speech signal, literally tracing it from a human mouth right down to a mathematical frequency feature that a machine can actually understand. All right, step 1, the source filter model. To understand how machines process speech, we've got to start right at the physical origin of sound. Imagine your vocal cords are just guitar strings. When air hits them, they vibrate and give off a basic pitch, essentially just a buzz. That's our source. But, a buzzing string by itself doesn't sound like a beautiful guitar chord, right? It desperately needs the wooden body of the guitar to shape it. For us, our throat, mouth, tongue, and lips act as that guitar body. They are the filter that physically shapes that raw buzz into clear, distinct sounds. Now, here's where it gets wild. We have to separate these two pieces of data. The source, your vocal cords, creates your fundamental frequency, or F0. That's your pitch, and it varies wildly depending on who is talking or even what mood they're in. The filter, your vocal tract, creates these resonant peaks called formants, specifically F1 and F2. These are what actually define the vowels and consonants. And because pitch is entirely tied to the specific speaker, automatic speech recognition systems literally throw the source away. They don't care if a grown man or a tiny kid said the word cat, they just need to recognize the word. So the machine actively discards the source and only keeps the filter. Moving right along to step 2, digitizing the audio signal. Let's see what happens when we leave the physical airwaves and enter the microphone. 16,000 hertz. In the world of speech tech, that is the undisputed golden standard sampling rate. But why exactly 16 kilohertz? It all comes down to a fundamental rule called the Nyquist Theorem. The math says that to capture a frequency perfectly, you must sample at exactly double its rate. Human speech carries its most critical phonetic info, even those really sharp, high-frequency consonant sounds like s and sh, up to about 8,000 hertz. So, following Nyquist rule, to capture 8,000 hertz safely without the data getting distorted and folding back in on itself, which is a nightmare problem called aliasing, we have to sample at double that limit. Bam, 16,000 hertz. But just turning it into digital numbers isn't enough. We have to prep it for the math, which brings us to step 3. Framing and windowing sound. Okay, we run into a massive mathematical paradox here. Speech is incredibly fluid. It's constantly changing as you naturally flow from one sound to the next. In math terms, it's highly non-stationary. But our main analysis tool, the fast Fourier transform or FFT, demands that the audio stands perfectly still. It assumes stationarity. So how do we solve this? We literally chop the continuous audio up into tiny, frozen frames where the speech just isn't changing fast enough to break the math. Let's break down the exact numbers. We use a frame size of 25 milliseconds, but we don't just stack them end to end. We advance, or hop, the frame forward by just 10 milliseconds. That leaves us with a 15 millisecond overlap. Think about that. Consecutive frames actually share 60% of their audio. That massive overlap is super important because it guarantees smooth data flow and prevents us from accidentally chopping a phoneme right down the middle. And seriously, 25 milliseconds? That's the absolute sweet spot. It's long enough to catch a couple of full pitch periods so the math actually has something to chew on, but short enough that the speaker hasn't already moved on to the next vowel. It is the perfect little snapshot. But wait, taking a pair of digital scissors and abruptly chopping audio into 25 millisecond blocks, that creates a huge mess called spectral leakage. The math completely misinterprets those sharp, unnatural cuts at the edges of the frame as fake, high-frequency energy. So your real, true frequencies end up smearing or leaking all over the neighboring frequency bins. It totally muddies up the data. To fix that leakage, we apply what's called a window to the frame. It's basically a volume curve that fades the edges out so you don't have those sharp cuts anymore. If you do nothing, which is called a rectangular window, you get a terrible leakage reduction of just minus 13 decibels. The Bartlett window? A little better, but the Hamming window is the absolute industry heavyweight champion, crushing that leakage down to an amazing minus 43 decibels.
Let's squash a classic audio engineering inner new trap right now. A Hamming window is a smooth cosine bell curve. The edges gently taper down to 0.08, and the dead center peaks at exactly 1.0. It is engineered specifically to cancel out that destructive spectral leakage. But here is the critical takeaway. A Hamming window is never a triangle. Literally never. If someone says it's a triangle, they're confusing it with the Bartlett window.
All right, final stage. Step 4, extracting frequencies with FFT. Let's see how all this prep turns into phonetic data.
The fast Fourier transform is the heavy lifter here. It takes our perfectly windowed, frozen frames and teleports them from the chaotic time domain into the beautifully organized frequency domain. It does this by breaking the complex audio down into super simple sine and cosine waves. And boom, this exposes those distinct formants, the vocal tract filters that we've been looking for all along.
When we actually look at the spectrum after the FFT does its thing, it's like a map of human language. Down in the 300 to 2500 hertz range, that's an absolute gold mine. That's where the F1 and F2 formants live, which is all you need to identify almost any vowel. Push higher, up to 4000 to 8000 hertz, and you find that noisy, fricative energy that gives away consonants like s and sh. And way down at the bottom, between 100 and 300 hertz, is our pitch, the F0. Remember, that tells us who is talking, but not what they're saying. And that brings us to the final, craziest trick of the whole pipeline. The FFT spits out two things, magnitude and phase. And what do? We throw the phase data entirely in the trash. We completely discard it and only keep the magnitude squared, also known as the power. Why? Because it turns out human ears are mostly phase insensitive when it comes to speech, and the actual phonetic identity of a word lives purely in the magnitude of those formats. So, let's do a rapid-fire recap of this incredible journey. Air buzzes your vocal cords, gets shaped by your vocal tract, gets captured at exactly 16,000 hertz by a mic, gets sliced into 25 millisecond frames, smoothed out by a Hamming window, and is finally decomposed by the FFT into a power spectrum where vowels and consonants are perfectly separated from the speaker's pitch. If you found this helpful, make sure to subscribe to Speachworld for more. But before I officially say, see you in the next one, consider this one final thought. This entire pipeline we just built relies on throwing pitch away because we assume pitch doesn't change the meaning of a word. But what on earth happens to this math when an AI tries to process a tonal language, like Mandarin or Vietnamese, where changing the pitch literally changes the entire definition of the word? I'll let you chew on that one. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.